Hello and welcome to this special edition of the InsurTech Business Series podcast, brought to you as part of the Financial Inclusion Week 2025. This year's theme challenges us to reimagine financial services that are not only accessible but also transformative for those who need them most, and few stories capture this better than the one you're about to hear. In this episode, we spotlight Britam Connect, one of Africa's inclusive insurance pioneers, through the story of Liza Maru-Chelimo, an actuary turned innovator. Liza shares her journey from actuarial science to engineering Britam Connect's mission of profit with purpose. We discuss how the company grew from an idea sparked from farmers' needs into a standalone insurtech under the Britam Group, reaching over 4.5 million lives across Kenya. It's a conversation of innovation, resilience, and captures why inclusive insurance is central to the future of financial inclusion in Africa. Let's dive in.
My name is Liza Maru. I lead innovation for Britam Microinsurance. I am an actuary by training, have a decade in the general insurance industry in Kenya.
Great. Actuary, very interesting now. I was going to go deep into what exactly that means, because one of the things that in the past conversations that we've had with Marjorie and Gwenya, we explored some conversations around, the actuary profession, being that there are limited number of actuaries in Africa. And then when you even look at women as well. But before we go into all of that, just wanted to ask, how are you doing? How has things been? How has the year been? This is midway into the year.
I'm doing great. It's been a very exciting year. So Britam Connect became a separate entity in Britam, and we're just largely handling Britam Microinsurance as well as any other emerging markets. So it's been very exciting to set that up, to be able to get new partnerships, to be able to work with clients. Let clients know that we are now an independent entity within the Britam Holdings. It's been great, I think, just being able to learn through the whole process.
Interesting. So that's a startup, underneath the big. That's a very interesting dynamics.
Yeah.
I guess there would have been some reasons why you had to create a new entity, but perhaps we'll get onto that as the conversation goes on. But let's go back to something that you said earlier. You're an actuary, right? Can you take us back to the beginning? What drew you into this world of insurance, world of actuary? What were those first steps like?
It would be very interesting to tell you that I think when I was 18, I didn't know anything about insurance. But back when I was a child, so like between primary and high school, I really loved mathematics. And it's one of the things I wanted to do as a career. I always thought that it's very easy for me to do math, to do logical calculations. So when I go to high school and we're trying to figure out, okay, what kind of career I want to take part in, one of the things I always thought about was engineering. But then through the course of my high school, I realized that most engineers tended to work outside for like long hours and under the heat of the sun. And I was like, probably that's just not my vibe.
Not for you.
So when I was in my final year is the time I stumbled into actuarial science. And what interested me most about it was that it was a combination of business and mathematics. At least that was the only course I would see in Kenya. And I ended up getting into an actuarial science degree in my university. So I joined Strathmore, which is a leading university. So the beauty of the university is that they encouraged people to pursue their professional papers. And that's how I ended up now getting to the actuarial path fully. Once I finished university, I got a role as an actuarial pricing analyst at a health insurance company in Kenya. And that's how the story of me getting into insurance started. It's been almost 11 plus years now within this space. I always thought I would leave, but I always find that insurance finds ways of like I don't know. Yeah, it keeps you, just when you think you want to leave, the next thing you realize, oh no, like I want to stay here forever. So, or you find something that would interest you so much more that you really don't want to exit the insurance sector. So it's been quite an interesting journey, at least.
I mentioned that we had spoken with Marjorie Ngwenya in the past. Someone else that we spoke with who is driving something very different as well is Aji Kaimowitz. I don't know if you know him from South Africa. So virtual actuaries is what he's doing, and was very interesting to learn about what goes on and in terms of the actuary profession and how important really your role is for insurance specifically. I mean, a number of other industries here, but if you look at insurance, you really are at the core of how we sort of do things. And so it was very interesting to see that for your role, you are not chief actuary, for example, right? Or within sort of like, the actuary team, but you head innovation. Very interesting mix, right? Because one of the things that I've seen, because, been driving innovation over the past sort of 5+ years now, and traditional and innovation, they don't really mix well
together. I know.
Yes. So how did that come about, and what exactly does it mean when you say, oh, I am head of innovation at Britam Connect?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question, and I get that a lot because I think when I mention I'm an actuary, everyone keeps on saying, okay, then you're not going to be innovative at all.
Yeah.
But one of the things I realized through my career path is first, I really love problem solving. And as opposed to the traditional actuarial work where you have all these models that have been set, and technically you would know what to do, what you're supposed to do every day. Like it's very straightforward. But as opposed to maybe someone who's more passionate about trying to solve problems, trying to get out, interact with people, find out where you can apply your technical skills. So through my career, I think just in my last role, I realized, because I was a product development manager, so I realized that what I'm really passionate about is that step of designing and crafting something new. And then the rest of the things like product pricing, everything else really falls into place. But where I find my biggest passion has been in the finding that there's this problem that needs to be solved and trying to design a solution for it. And so the traditional actuarial work just didn't seem like to match my interest. But mostly, I think it's also with my personality, because I'm very talkative. I'm very extroverted. I struggled to be in a back room in the corner of an office doing and crunching numbers. I think where I found I really excelled at was when I was engaging with sales agents. I was engaging with partners and trying to really come up with a solution for them. And so when Britam came calling, and what I think they're really keen on was like to get an actuary who would be front facing. Because one of the challenges that they had was that the internal actuarial team, despite them being very well experienced, they didn't have empathy for the customer. They didn't have understanding of what the partner needed. And so when there will be so much back and forth between the actuarial department and the partnerships or the client teams to get into a solution that really what you needed is an actuary who'd get out of their desk and go and meet this client and truly understand what the client needs and be able to craft a solution for the client, either together or come back and quickly craft it. So it was really just to get someone to get out there and be able to understand the client. And that's how I ended up at Britam leading innovation. So the particular role was customer innovation, because Britam had a very clear growth strategy of getting to millions of customers. And that meant that the products needed to be very relevant, extremely affordable, but at the same time needed to be sustainable from a profitability perspective.
Yeah.
And so they thought that they needed someone technical enough to be able to do that, but at the same time, someone who can create or solve those problems. And yeah, that's how I ended up in innovation. I can say that right now I barely do much of product pricing. Most of my work has been partnerships and building solutions that are relevant for the clientele. There's very little on the actuary side that I do. It's a lot of project management. It's a lot of strategic work. So I think it's just like I found myself. It's how life takes you. You get to your fate, but you never really know it at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those are unique skills, right? I mean, being able to mix actuary and that innovative mindset, a different mindset, is a unique skill. And I mean, I dare to say that you're a very rare breed, right? Because one of the things that we've seen as well is the skill gap, right? And you spoke about the fact that traditional, just being able to mix with the neo is difficult. And so how do we make it work? And it's usually a challenge. But yeah, I think very, very interesting to see that players like Britam are thinking differently, and at least even has that kind of mindset or approach, or even thought about, hey, we need to do things a lot differently, and there is this segment of the market that we need to target more. They are speaking a different language, so we need to approach them in a different way. Although we also need to survive and remain as a business, and so being able to marry that, it takes a very special skill. So I mean, well done. But I guess the question then will be: yes, Britam is one, and they've taken this, and mentioned earlier in fact that Britam Connect is now sort of like a startup that's supposed to be driving this fully. And we will talk about this in a bit, right? But from your own perspective and speaking with the industry and again, playing within the space, maybe in Kenya, in East Africa, and all of the activities that you are driving, do you think that there is a strong case to be made for innovation and technology within the insurance industry in Africa, Kenya, in East Africa? Understanding the kind of impact, for example, that you have driven and or you had so far?
Yeah, categorically, yes. And it's because of different reasons, but the main one is, at least from my experience in the insurance industry, is that when you look through the traditional processes and systems, you come to realize that they were not built for the African context. So they're built for European markets, where everyone understands what is in those policies. But if you try and understand the African context, where things are just naturally bought in daily terms, systems they need to be very simplified. People barely read. Their literacy levels are very low. We really are trying to sell a Lamborghini in a slum. And maybe that's the wrong way, but we're selling the Lamborghini in a wrong place, in a desert. It's not needed. And so there has to be that mindset shift, just generally in the insurance industry, to innovate for us to survive. Because one of the things that we foresee, at least from what I'm seeing ahead, is that it won't be the insurance industry that will disrupt itself. Like, what will likely happen is that there'll be someone who's not in the insurance industry, whether it's a telco, whether it's a bank, whether it's an FI, that will actually disrupt the insurance industry, and will have very little time to try and keep up. And so if we're not building that innovation and building that capability and think tank within ourselves, then we're technically just surviving on the airtime that we had from the years that we have been operating.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think, at least most companies where I'm seeing, is that they're heavily investing in innovation, heavily investing in technology, but more so heavily investing in trying to understand their customers better and understanding that you don't necessarily have to act alone. Sometimes you partnerships will get you there. Yeah. So I think I honestly, Ade, if I was to just think of the insurance industry in the next 10 years, if we don't change anything to do with our innovation and technology pace, then we're technically just killing ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with you. You spoke earlier about the fact that Britam Connect is now a standalone. You have a startup driving some of these things. And, Britam, as a business, now Britam Connect have become sort of like a reference point when you're looking at this space, especially in East Africa. Can you take us behind the curtains and tell us what was and what is the vision, and perhaps maybe what's the thing that is exciting you and keeping you within the insurance industry?
Yeah, so actually our mission or our goal is to have profits but with purpose. That's our tagline. And Britam Connect. And how I think Britam Connect, which was initially just as a microinsurance business unit under Britam General Insurance, started, was that it was actually accidental. It was like one of the sales agents and the directors were going to sell a machinery or engineering product to a cooperative. And then the cooperative said, okay, we'll give you the business only if you try and find a solution that you can give for our farmers. Because what is happening is that there are instances where our farmers are getting sick or they're unfortunately dying, and there's no resources that they have to be able to cover the liabilities. And so that's how it started, accidentally. And in the first year, where there was no business, it grew to 30,000 customers in the first year. And that's the time Britam realized, there's a market here that somehow we've not looked at, but it looks promising. And the good thing that they recognize that they can't use traditional processes on this market, because what was happening is that there are 30,000 customers, but the premiums were so low that it wouldn't make sense to use an ordinary underwriter to administer the product. And so that's when they decided to separate these units and build a microinsurance, I would say business units within the general insurance company. Over the years, it's grown to different forms. So we're covering farmers, we're covering informal workers, we're covering informal groups. We call like savings groups. We're covering welfare groups. We're covering women in the rural areas, in the urban areas, market sellers. So we have a huge range of clientele, and now we're at 4.5 million lives. But I think what I would say is that the main vision has been always being able to have an impact story to the kind of business or commercial practices that we are doing. So Britam, which originally started as this very higher end brand, is trying to connect with the main customers or the main people in Kenya or the clientele in Kenya through Britam Connect. Yeah.
I mean, 4.5 million lives. I mean, the first question would then be, in terms of when this whole thing started to now, comparing the kind of growth in number of customers to the parent business, it'll be very interesting to see, right? Because I think one of the things that you see within this space is the kind of impact and kind of reach that you can have, and again, we are targeting the largest group of the population. And so very interesting. And, you talked a bit about becoming a standalone, sort of like a startup. Why did that happen? Why did it need to stand as an entity on its own? And is the focus today, is it same as said it was at the beginning?
So we had like a two-front reason. One of the reasons was that the regulator which is the insurance regulator of Kenya, in 2020 published some regulations on microinsurance. And what they were urging the industry was that to explore trying to build microinsurance companies. But mostly, I think they were targeting getting non-insurance companies to join the microinsurance space. Yeah, so whether it's InsurTech, so to create this easier regulatory framework for smaller microinsurance companies. But mostly, I think even as from a business maturity level, we were growing consecutively. And so in 2023, I think we had a revenue of roughly, was it $12 million? So this, of course, sparked the interest from the company to set up a separate entity. Just to give you context, most insurance companies, I would say that Britam Connect, just based on its revenue currently, is definitely in the top 13 or 12 companies in Kenya. Yes, so it was quite mature, even if it's
that's before even being a startup.
Exactly. And so I think it was very important to separate it both from a governance level to make sure that you're having the right drive, you're getting the right board. And so with that, I think Britam's vision was to have this both business, but at the same time impact lens for Britam Connect. And so even with how it was set up, with the kind of board members, with the kind of management and staff, they aimed to have both passionate teams who are keen on profit, but at the same time on impact. And so the drive still continues. One of the targets that we have is to become the M-Pesa of Britam. Just to give you context, M-Pesa is a huge mobile money platform that is owned by Safaricom. So they see Britam Connect being the one that really gets in touch with the millions of customers in Kenya, and so translates that into profits, by the same time into value to the society. Yeah.
I mean, and I think with 4.5 million lives, you're definitely on that path, right? And you're talking about insurance here. And I think one of the biggest challenge, and I was going to go into some of the things that you probably have done over the years, either before you became the standalone, and now that you're driving it, Britam Connect on its own, in terms of some of the interesting, innovative products that you have brought to market, and some of the stories that has come out of those solutions. Because for you to reach 4.5 million lives, right, that is impressive. I think the other part then, when you're looking at micro insurance and inclusive insurance as well, is utilization in terms of people actually using the insurance and engaging with the insurance and seeing the value. Because when you buy insurance, it's not when you use it. You use it a day, 10 days, a week, a month after. That's when insurance then begins to work. So it'll be interesting to hear from you, some interesting things that has come out of Britam Connect and some of the stories that you think that is worth us sharing.
So I'm thinking of two specific stories, and the first one has been on a parametric flood insurance product that we did in 2023. And this is where we were trying to create something very different in the climate space. In Kenya or in East Africa generally, the kind of climate products that exist are mostly for farmers. It's an agricultural product, but then you have all these other masses of people that have been left out despite them being vulnerable to climate disasters, whether it's drought or whether it's flood. And one of the things that we were really keen on is, can we explore creating a flood insurance product for the Kenyan households? And we were targeting specific regions where we found that there was it was very flood prone. So there was Kisumu County, which is next to Lake Victoria, and then there's some counties which particularly are along the largest river in Kenya, which tends to flood during the rainy seasons. So we built a product that would be able to make payouts in case of severe floods. And interestingly, we worked with an NGO, which was Oxfam, who was willing to at least subsidize the first premium. What was very interesting was that for most of the households that were onboarded, it was their first time using any form of financial product. So they didn't have a bank account. They of course had a mobile money account, but then that was the first time they were technically hearing about insurance, and even just trying to explain what insurance was. It was not really easy. So, but I think based on how the program went, we're able to make payouts to the households or very adverse floods, and through the parametric product, we're able to trigger some payments which were made directly to the households. And that's the time we realized how impactful insurance can be. Because during such disasters, what tends to happen is that the NGOs or the humanitarian organizations have to wait for the government to declare that event a disaster before any funds can be triggered to them. And so this delays support or response to the communities that need it the most. And when you can use insurance to be able to support that, or to be able to even provide a payout in time, then it becomes a really good way to finance disasters, or to have a risk finance for disasters. Of course, the biggest question has always been the sustainability of such a product. But if you think about it, when it's taken from a county level or from a sub-sovereign level, then it becomes really sustainable, because you're not going to be making payouts to everyone. You're going to be making payouts to those sections where it's vulnerable. And of course, now it becomes very sustainable in the long run. The second one.
I need to ask you some questions in terms of what you just shared. And parametric insurance is very interesting to me, and I think that it can be very, very important model to help us on the African continent in terms of providing compensation to the most vulnerable, right? And the very nature of parametric means that it's going against, I won't say, but well, let's not say against, is different from the traditional indemnity process, right? And then you spoke about the fact that many of the people who enjoyed or were part of this initiative and this product were customers under this product. This was their first time of engaging insurance, and so they are engaging with a new approach, to insurance, a different approach. I'm just looking at it and playing in my mind, maintaining that expectation, right? Because with parametric insurance, the payout is faster, but when you compare that to the traditional way, which takes a long time, in that kind of situation, it was flawed. There'll be an adjuster will come, they'll inspect, they'll take a few weeks, but with parametric is almost in hours, in days, maybe in minutes, depending on how it's structured. I just wanted to pick your brains in terms of, generally, look at parametric insurance, what kind of opportunities can that bring for insurance in Africa specifically, and looking at the learnings that you've seen?
Yeah, so I think from a perspective, parametrics is a very strong tool. One, it builds a lot more trust with the communities, because it is something that can be independently verified. And so the insurance company is just told or informed that these are payouts based on the person who's assessing the risk. The other thing is that there's very timely payouts to the client. So what would take weeks or even months, it becomes very easy, because all you have to do is get the loss assessment reports. And once it's something that is verified, then you quickly just make the payments to the household. I think the other interesting thing that we are now seeing is that it can be used as a preventative tool, so that as an insurance company, if you know that you're insuring a community in a region that maybe is prone to floods or droughts or disasters, if you could have any predictive capabilities, then you can easily have anticipatory action. So that means like you almost warn the households to either move or to be able to do something before the disaster worsens. So this helps you as an insurer because you're actually reducing your claims cost.
Yes.
So where we've seen very interesting work being done is, for instance, for pastoralists, in case these are predicted drought, and it can be done through looking at the rainfall patterns, the vegetation patterns, and immediately there's a payout that is triggered to the pastoralist to go and purchase fodder for their animals. So that reduces the level of disaster that would have incurred in case the cows died out of either dehydration or malnutrition. We find it being a very interesting tool to be able to support the kind of programs that we're trying to run, or to support innovative work for insurance companies.
Very interesting, because very, very important point as well that you made in terms of, for us as an industry, moving from reactive to preventive, right? I think it's very important that we are on a journey with our customers, right? Understanding as well that, yes, it's not when they pay for insurance that they enjoy insurance. It is at the point of claim, when the risk, sort of crystallizes. How do we ensure that we are there for them and with them? And so what that means is that even before the risk happens, if you have opportunities to see indications that a risk can occur, why not help to prevent that from occurring, or reduce the impact of the occurrence? And that does two things, at least from my view. Right? On your side, just like you said, reducing claims, and I think for insurance, expenses is sort of like the only part of your books that you can really control, right? And so that's a good way to sort of manage that. On the other side as well, to the customer sees you as being on the journey with them. We are partners, not just, oh, this is my insurer, but you are actually a partner. The insurer is very much interested in my progress, my journey. And this can be maybe for the person's business, it can be for the family, it can be for the farm, and all of this, I think, is very, very, very important and very interesting when you look at parametrics. So, yeah, thank you very much. So you wanted to give a second example.
So a second example has been on a maternal healthcare program that we are running within our health insurance product. And this one was started more as an exploratory project, where we realized that the women in our health insurance product had a higher postnatal readmission rate. So you'd find that if you compare it to the average benchmark, they tended to have to be readmitted again after delivery. And so one of the things that, of course, this does, that it increases the cost to you as an insurer. And so one the things that we were trying to explore is what ways can we intervene to reduce this cost of healthcare, particularly on our side, but also to the moms, but more so like to improve the maternal health outcomes and on the mothers specifically. And we developed a program which would support or like bring in the women from as soon as they learn they're pregnant, would teach them about how to take care of themselves, what kind of nutrition to take, what kind of exercise to do, specifically how many clinic visits they should attend. We'd also refer the right hospitals that they should visit, as well as follow up that they were seeking the right medical services. So just this year, because we started it last year, this year we saw 50% drop in the readmission rates, and particularly for the women who joined this program. And what we found is that information and communication and engagement with the women supported in reducing that risk, particularly. So it's very interesting, at least from our study, and it's something which we feel, in fact, every insurer should have, because it might seem more as a cost, but it ends up being like a marketing cost. But at the same time, you're having savings on your claims cost. So what we're trying to now do is like there are value-based healthcare frameworks where we're trying to find ways in which now we work with providers to focus on outcomes instead of just waiting for a day to go to the hospital, then we pay the amount, however many times he goes to the hospital. They're really being concerned to wonder, why is Ade going to the hospital so many times? Is that something that is that better care he should receive? So we'd rather put in more investments in the prevention than to wait until things are very difficult or adverse for us to intervene. Yeah.
In my mind, I was then asking, you talked about the journey from, being a part of Britam and then creation of this startup, and then talking about some of these initiatives that you're driving. And I'm wondering, do you go on this journey alone? I see that there's a lot of work, and this is for me understanding what it means to really drive inclusive insurance. So there's a lot of work involved. And so when you look at the work that you have done so far and things that you're driving, and even outside of the two that you mentioned, how pivotal is partnerships to all of the things that you're doing now, you still won't be doing?
What we find is that partnerships is quite critical, and it could be partnerships in different forms. It could be partnerships in distribution, partnerships as well as in technology, because we also cognizant that we don't have the best systems as insurance companies.
Right.
And so it's really important where you can leverage on the insurtechs that are present, that you've worked with, to be able to make the process more seamless to the customers. And so what we actually really believe in for particularly inclusive insurance is that partnerships are very critical. And so you have to find ways in which you're working with a partner to either target a client, especially if you're looking at a large mass and to have a sustainable product. Partnerships are very key. Working with partners also enables you to penetrate some markets. So when you work with a partner and they're a trusted brand in a market, then really you can leverage on that brand to be able to get clients to purchase your product. So it really makes it more feasible for you to have a viable product, especially knowing that insurance tends to not have the best perception in many places. So if you're working with a fintech or a telco that is trusted, then it's much easier to penetrate those markets.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, in terms of some of these customers, you talked about 4.5 million plus customers that you've sort of reached so far. What has been, at least again, in your market, what has been the thing that you've seen in terms of the best way to approach or to get customers to engage with this product? Is it embedded insurance? Is it the USSD? Is it some of these partnerships where these products are within the ecosystem of this startups or these fintechs or super apps? What have you seen work, or is it a mix of all of this?
It's a mix of all the different methods, but where we find it depends also what your target is as a business. Okay. I think we have two targets. So we have both a revenue target, but at the same time, a customer acquisition target.
Right.
And where we find that we get our most revenue, or where we tap into like the most higher value products, is through the working with like a cooperative, a partner. Right. We try and sell the product directly to the customer, and we either use their agent to sell the product. So, for instance, if it's a cooperative, we use their field officer to sell the product because it's easier for the customer to understand what they're buying, and you tend to be selling products that are easily demanded by the customer.
Yeah.
On the other side, when it comes to the customer acquisition, where we always find the biggest benefit has been in having a simpler product and embedding it into an ecosystem. And so this is where the embedding into digital platforms, whether it's an USSD platform, whether it's a super app, has been very critical, because we realize that without embedding some services, some products, people will never understand what exactly the value is. And so being able to build that insurance culture where someone realizes, oh, I bought this, maybe a data bundle, and it came with insurance. And in case I get an accident, I'm able to claim, then that's it. That's a time that they'll feel like the value of insurance. Otherwise, it may be very hard to sell an accident product to someone who has never had an accident. So we find that there has to be a balance of both, and it all comes back to what exactly is the business's main goal. Is your goal to drive as much revenue as you can, or is your goal to also have as much impact as you could? So that's a balance.
Thank you very much. You shared a lot about some of the things that Britam and Britam Connect has been driving, and it's been very enlightening and eye-opening. What are the lessons that you've learned on this journey in terms of driving inclusive insurance and getting Kenyans the protection that they need?
I think there are three main lessons I would start with. At least from sitting from an innovation state, is that you have to get used to failing, and you need to fail forward and fail fast.
Sorry, I'm sure this would have been probably one of the reasons why you needed to create a new entity.
Exactly.
Traditionals don't like to fail.
No one wants to fail. So when you fail, don't cry over that spilled meat. Just move on, move to the next thing. And it's just to also share that you might see all these very nice things that are happening, but behind every one successful project, there are like 9 that didn't work. And so you have to always be in that spirit that there are things that will work and there are things that do not work. Just ensure that your funnel is wide enough so that at least you get a number of projects that are successful. The other thing is that sustainability is key. It's very easy for inclusive insurance to be extremely focused on impact, be focused on trying to get as many people as you can for as low a price as you can. But you have to get into sustainable partnerships, sustainable products, sustainable prices, and sustainable processes. Because it would be really sad in situations where you're offering a really wonderful product and then you have to take it out of the market in the next 1 or 2 years. And so there has to be, even as you're getting into these partnerships, as you're getting into developing the products, you always have to have that long-term perspective as to why are you doing that program? Will it survive for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years? Just so that even for the business, it's something that they can invest in, knowing that it's a long-term shot. And I think the third one is it's very easy, especially as a private sector player, to want to work alone. But where we found that the biggest successes tend to happen is through working with consortiums, but at the same time working with the public sector. So working with the governments to be able to deliver some of the programs, because the government is a very credible partner. They're trusted by the citizens or the populations. You're able to leverage on them to sometimes subsidize some of the products that you're selling. And in the long term, once your program is embedded into a policy, then really it becomes very easy for people to buy it, for people to understand it. And so there has to be that lens of beyond private sector, public and private have to work together in order to make the biggest impact for inclusive insurance.
Be happy to fail. Sustainability should be front and center. And public and private partnership and collaboration is very key. I think when we were speaking now, I remember that recently AXA and the Lagos State government in Nigeria, they launched a parametric flood insurance. So very interesting times, definitely in the space of insurance. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And as we close out now, and I definitely want to pick your brains in terms of what the future holds. You, alongside your colleagues there at Britam Connect, have been driving innovative approaches to get insurance to Kenyans, to East Africans, to Africans generally. And my question is, when you look at the next 5 years, so 2030, 2035, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for insurtech in Africa? What role do you hope, to play in shaping that future?
That's a very good question, Nade. I think one of the things that we find is that making insurance more accessible and simpler is the biggest thing we can try and do, particularly for the inclusive insurance market. And so definitely where we'd want to play is at enhance the distribution of insurance, make it look as ordinary as buying a loaf of bread. Until that is done, we'll be very far from trying to capture the society. We need to make it so easy to purchase it and so loved as a product that people actually buy it. They go to the supermarket and buy an insurance plan, or they go to the next kiosk and buy an insurance plan. So those are the main areas that we are really keen on expanding and exploring from our end.
Definitely very interesting times ahead. I think we're just scratching the surface. I mean, I was looking on LinkedIn earlier today, and in the Ghanaian market, there was a post from the regulator there around some reports that was done recently about the insurance penetration in Ghana. And, the reports noted that it's about 1%. I don't know what the number is in Kenya.
We're like 2.5, I think.
Right,
yeah.
Great. So 2.5, 1% in Ghana. In Nigeria, perhaps maybe 0.5%. Right. So for me, what I see in all of this is the opportunity, right? Opportunity to get insurance to people, because at the end of the day, they actually need the protection. Right? So it's not a luxury thing. Perhaps maybe you can look at it product by product. Some products can be luxury, right? But we are talking about when life happens, ensuring that they don't fall back into poverty, or then within that poverty level, not falling even deeper. That's where insurance can play a huge role. And when you talk about financial inclusion, when you speak about those things that don't include insurance, I think it's a huge miss. And so I guess it's for us as players within the space, even if it's having individuals like yourself, companies like Britam, starting off the move to help us begin to see things differently, I think is very important. And so well done to what you're doing and what you're driving. It was great, learning about what's happening within the space. And definitely looking forward to hearing even a lot more from you and what Britam is driving. I mean, I think I mentioned to you that we had Saurabh Sharma some time ago on the podcast, also sharing some of the things that that the team is driving at Britam. So it was very interesting to follow up with you and hear the new things. Now there's standalone. I don't think that existed then, but yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
If people are looking to connect with you or connect with Britam, to partner, to talk a bit more about how to collaborate, how can they do that? Where can they connect?
So they can either reach me on my LinkedIn, which is just plain Liza Maru, or they could also reach out to me on my email, which is lmaru@britam.com.
Thank you for joining the podcast. Thank you for sharing as much as you did.
Thank you, Ade.
We are biased for Africa. We believe that we need to innovate for Africa.
Hi everyone, I'm Sabine van der Linden. I run Venture Labs under the name of Alchemy Crew.
My name is Tunji Andrews, founder and CEO at Awabaha.
You need to have products that are simple enough that someone that's never bought insurance before can understand them in a 2-minute phone call.
2014, Nigeria's first insurtech platform was formed, Moto Juniors.
I believe there's a huge opportunity to reshape the narrative of insurance.
This is Arun Iyer, founder and CEO of Alpha Direct.
Dr. Neto, founder and CEO of Wella Health.
My name is Benton. I'm the founder and CEO of MTech.
This is Nglo, the CTO at Pineapple.
This is Herman from Austria, Managing Director of Assurance.
So join us for the new season of InsurTech Business Series Podcast. Fresh conversations on InsurTech in Africa. Subscribe now.